Welcome to Bush Hall, this year's home for the launch announcement of the 8th Annual Independent Venue Week happening in January 2021. This year has been so very different for everyone, and of course those in all aspects of live music and the entertainment world, and what a year it's been. COVID has affected every person around the world in an unimaginable way, from the loss of family, friends, colleagues, and those who we've never even met in frontline healthcare. Livelihoods have been lost, some businesses shut down for good, and other industries have been left struggling to operate at all. Our own grassroots live music community, from venues, promoters, artists, crew, managers, merch and ticketing companies, kit hire businesses, catering, touring support and transport, in fact all arts and culture has faced extraordinary times and challenges. And we are extremely mindful that even now, at the start of December, some venues in the UK are still under huge threat and may not survive. We wanted to speak to some of the key people who have been working at the forefront of the live music and arts community as they've helped navigate the sector through the year. We're now going to speak with Claire Mera-Nelson, Head of Music at Arts Council England. So I'm joined by Claire Mera-Nelson, who is Head of Music at Arts Council England. Thank you so much for joining us, Claire.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me today.
Let's get straight into it. I wanted to ask you, how has the Arts Council England coped with COVID and the impact that it's had on the arts?
Well, as you might imagine, it's had a really extraordinary impact on the work that we do at the Arts Council. Very quickly after the lockdown was announced in March, we decided that we would suspend pretty much all of our normal business. So all of the work that we normally do about around project grants and giving out project-based funding to the sector. And we went straight into the first of what has turned out to be several emergency funding rounds. So our first emergency funding round took place in the late, early part of summer, May, June time. Then we had one over the summer, which was dedicated specifically to the grassroots music sector. And then a third one, which we completed last month, which was the government's Cultural Recovery Fund, which we were administrating on behalf of DCMS. Yeah. So between those three funds, I've been really, really delighted by the level of success from the grassroots sector, and we've been able to put a huge amount of money into helping the sector, which I think we all know is facing extreme need.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to the word unprecedented. Unprecedented has been used a little bit too much already, but it's an extreme situation for sure that we've all had to adapt to it, especially yourselves. How have you rallied and supported the sector as a whole, and in particular our community, would you say?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that's been really important and actually really heartening through this whole experience has been the degree of dialogue with the sector. So we've been talking on a, virtually daily basis in some cases, but regular basis with most of the major sector bodies, including, of course, Music Venue Trust, but around the Production Services Association. We've talked with the Association of Independent Promoters, we talked with Featured Artists Coalition, Musicians Union, all of the organisations that we could, and the Nighttime Industries Association too. And I think what's been interesting for me in those conversations is because of those parts of the sector which are, kind of purely commercial end of the sector, hasn't traditionally had much of a dialogue with the Arts Council. And so it's been really good to get to know some of the colleagues who are involved and to have a more direct conversation about the challenges that those specific bits of the sector face.
I mean, do you think where people haven't had physical access to arts and culture, has it made the public appreciate the importance of that even more now, would you say?
What I think is really interesting actually is particularly with music venues, actually, that's where that sense of there being a kind of physical place that acts as a crucible within a local community has become really consolidated in people's minds. I think it's terribly easy, if you think of the world pre-COVID, the kind of easy access to what do we fancy doing, where will we go, we'll go anywhere. And even around the country where perhaps, music venues are a little more sort of geographically distributed, I think people still felt like they could just travel to wherever they want and dip into something. And that sometimes led to a level of complacency about what was right on the doorstep. They often were unaware which artists were living in their community. They didn't understand the kind of stresses and strains that the sector was under. And I really do think that at large, the public are now highly aware of the both the significance of these cultural entities right in their midst, but also the pressures that they face on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely brought the struggle of that up to the forefront completely. And I don't really think grassroots music venues have had to really have a struggle like this before. It's quite a self-sufficient industry when it's up and running, and it does fund itself, much like a lot of the music industry. But do you think the way the arts and grassroots live music community is funded in the future, do you think it's going to change?
I think it's a really, really challenging question. I mean, it's interesting to hear you reflect that they've always managed to sustain themselves. But I think what I've heard since coming really into this conversation with the sector has been about the fact that there are long-term systemic problems in the way that grassroots venues operate. And that ranges through from a model that is reliant to a large extent on the sale of alcohol in order to fund the music end of the business for many, not all, but many, many venues, through to the kind of wider societal pressures on them as cultural spaces, whether that's around planning, around noise, around transport, around having enough bandwidth in your finances to invest in the building and the infrastructure of the building, far less attract, support, retain, and provide access to people in your community to engage with it. But I'm an optimist, and I have always been able to see that there is an extraordinary opportunity buried in venues to be those really, really grounded locations that any person could engage with. And I think the change I would love to see happen is that everybody feels like the threshold of a music venue is somewhere that they can cross. I think too often people have had perceptions of venues which were probably utterly unjustified, but something about the way that they presented to the outer world, and that could be anything from the nature of the marketing materials, the look of the front door, the kind of assumptions made about people who walked through it. I would love to see those change, and especially for younger members of our community, for them to be really welcomed across that threshold so that music can play the kind of part in their future lives, as audiences, far less as artists, that we would like to see it play.
It's really great to hear you talk so in depth about the the very detailed, like you say, long-term systemic things that have really been exposed. Although the COVID has in turn done its own thing, to the industry and done damage in that entity. You're right that it has exposed, other issues for sure. What are your hopes for the future, both immediate and long-term? Not that anyone can say for sure, but you personally.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose in the very short term that we can come out of this with as many of the venues and as much of the cultural infrastructure in place as we can possibly secure. I think I've been really heartened by the extent to which lots of different people have tried to pitch in different ways. Seeing artists turn back and recognize and pay tribute to the venues that were foundational in their careers, been so important, actually. And I think that in itself has sent a really powerful public message. Seeing actually some of the innovation, there's nothing like one colleague referred to me as innovating through a crisis. Actually seeing that resilience and kind of entrepreneurialism come out, I'm really hoping that people actually hang on to some of that. Although it's been done under the worst possible circumstances, I I'm clear that there are people who have seen ways of perpetuating their brand, and not just reaching out into the local community, but in some cases having even an international presence in a way that they would never have conceived of doing before this moment. I also think that it's been really interesting, even in the mainstream media, looking in on the news, hearing the voices of venue managers taken seriously in a different kind of way. That I think has been a really interesting change of people turning around and recognizing why these are interesting places that we should pay attention to. So if we could preserve some of those things alongside giving those opportunities to young people to come in, I think that would be really fantastic.
Yeah, it's also kind of like the figureheads of music, and like you say, venue owners and people who are really responsible for a lot of people underneath them, like taking ownership of their industry as well, which is really good to see. And also with, online has been such a lifeline throughout all this as well.
Absolutely, and I think people, actually hearing people talk about the well-being of their teams, I think there's a whole new conversation about that that's emerged where, I've been into discussions with the venue sector in the past where it's felt quite adversarial between the different elements of the sector, with everyone kind of pointing fingers and saying, well, you're the bit that causes the problem. It doesn't feel like that's the conversation that's happening anymore. And I really hope that coming out of that sense of kind of collegiate working together to address the problems is held on to, because actually that's where the conversation changes. That's when government sits up and pays attention. That's when local authorities will listen, because they stop seeing a particular element as part of the problem, but everybody collectively as part of the solution.
Yeah, right. I think you're doing a fantastic job. It's such a pleasure to speak to you. And just on a lighter note, where, in terms of venues, and who are you most looking forward to seeing when we can get back into venues?
Do you know, that is about the hardest question you could possibly ask me.
Right now
No, it's so interesting because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think there's something for me personally. There are so many people, there's a couple of people, and they know who they are, who've had me pick up the phone to them to tell them the good news that they had been funded. And the kind of extraordinary emotional experience for me of hearing their reaction to that. And then, thinking, half of these places I've never been to. So I think, where do I want to go? I want to go to an awful lot of places where people wouldn't recognize my face because they've never met me. And also, I think the other thing, not everybody will know, but I used to work in education before I went to the Arts Council. And the thing that has made me saddest since I went to the Arts Council is missing out on being alongside those people who are just starting out. And so hearing unexpected things that I never expected to witness from people who are just brave enough to try something new, that's what I really miss. And actually, grassroots venues are the place to get that in spades. So it could be anywhere, and I'm really looking forward to being out there and seeing it all.
Oh, well, Claire Mera-Nelson, thank you so much for joining us. It really has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything, and no doubt we'll speak again. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
We also wanted to speak to Help Musicians UK, the independent UK charity for professional musicians of all genres, from starting out through to retirement. We caught up with James Ainscough, the charity's CEO.
I'm really, really happy to be joined by James Ainscough from Help Musicians. He's the CEO of Help Musicians UK. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Simone. It's great to be here.
I hope I pronounced your name right.
Do you know, everybody pronounces it differently. It's a Lancashire name, and in Lancashire it's Ainscough, but I was brought up in Yorkshire, and in Yorkshire it's Ainscough. And to be honest, I've been called a lot worse than either of those two things.
I think we all have in the music industry. So just for the benefit of the viewers, and obviously you and I know, Help Musicians is an independent UK charity for professional musicians of all genres, starting from, starting out that stage, even up to retirement. And you support musicians through a number of projects and proactive programs, as well as supporting them in times of crisis. And this year, in response to the world's biggest crisis, COVID, you've donated huge sums of money in the form of grants to musicians. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we're on to our third round of hardship funding since the pandemic first hit us in March. On this current third round, we'll have about 3,000 musicians, we think, who will be supporting from November to March. Across our 3 rounds, we've helped over 20,000 musicians and passed out just over £15 million to them in total.
Wow.
And of that 15 million quid, 7 million has come from our own reserve. So we've been saving up for years for big rainy days like 2020. And then the rest has come from all sorts of donors. So from the arts councils in England and Scotland, from the BPI, from Spotify and Amazon Music and PPL, the Royal Society of Musicians. Loads of musicians have been working to fundraise for us, including groups like Folk on Foot. And then just loads of music lovers ringing up and clicking on our website to donate. So it's just been a privilege really to be part of this effort of thousands to help thousands. And it's simply because everyone loves music and they want to support the people who are behind it. So it's been hard work, but it's been such a privilege to do. And well, the work's not over yet, is it? But,
no, it's very uncertain, isn't it? But I hear what you're saying, this feeling, kind of a real feeling of community and family almost in music. And some of the companies you mentioned do actually get a pretty bad rap for being sort of industry leaders in that sense. But like you say, it's nice to see that really when it comes to it, everybody does want to save each other, because it is in each other's interest to save each other. It's not just like one sector acting out of, independence.
No, Simone, you're dead right. And what I find as well is that even if you don't agree with the particular strategy or position of a particular bit of the music industry, when you meet the people who work in those organizations, they love music just the same.
Yeah.
And actually, what we've seen at Help Musicians is heart ruling head time after time as people support us and donate us and encourage us. Yeah. And that's what brings people together, isn't it? It's you kind of get back to what music is. It's something that brings people together from all sorts of backgrounds. That's what a gig. What's so exciting about the gig. It's the music and the venue and the people, and it creates an atmosphere that you can never bottle.
Yeah.
And never repeat. That's why you've got to do that.
I'm smiling, looking at you, smiling, because as you're talking about it, I can see how much enthusiasm you have for it, and that is kind of exemplary for how much you've helped. I was not aware. I personally think Help Musicians UK provides incredible help, psychologically, emotionally, and just to be able to talk to somebody, and not just that, but especially in this time of really extreme situations and lack of work and lack of money and financial instability, pointing people in the directions of practical help, which alleviates a lot of the psychological issues, so the fact that you're bringing forth so much money and financial help is amazing. It's going to be a while before things return to normal anywhere, obviously. It's still kind of up and down, so it's going to be a while before we can call anything normal. What steps is the charity taking to look beyond emergency support?
Yeah, well, we're trying to do a lot. So, and firstly, I mean, you're right. Financial help is important, but actually, what financial help does is help people with mental health and well-being issues. Yeah. It helps them find the space to be creative again. Yeah. And get back to making the music they need to make, because you're not a musician because it's your job. You're a musician because it's your calling. It's the
I think that's a really important point to make, and that's something that you as Help Musicians UK completely understand.
Yeah, and you can't make music if there's people banging on your door asking for bills to be paid and so on. So financial hardship work is actually about the whole musician. It's not just about paying bills. So we've been doing a number of other things kind of alongside financial hardship stuff. Well, firstly, we ramped up our creative program. So we've been offering more creative grants to more musicians than ever before, particularly through our Do It Differently fund, which is primarily for self-releasing artists. And also we doubled the size of our MOBO funds this year as well. And secondly, the principle on our Do It Differently work has always been that you offer people some money to help with their creative work, but they need more than that. They need a mentor who's going to give them business skills. They need their hearing health checked so that they can keep going for a 40-year career and so on. And so we've been adding this kind of wraparound support. So creative funding, again, is just the start of it. We actually want to help a musician improve creatively so they can drive their career forwards. So we've been doing more of that. Secondly, we've been providing some very deliberate mental health support and resources. So you probably know we run the helpline Music Minds Matter.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a 24/7 listening ear service where you have a therapeutic conversation at the time you need it. So we've been pushing that, and also working with Music Support, who are a lovely charity who we're really good friends with. We've been pushing out the Thrive app, which is an NHS approved app to help you manage your well-being. And it almost sounds like a Fitbit. It helps you work out how you're doing from a mental well-being perspective and what you might need to do to stop tipping over the edge into something more serious.
Yeah.
And then also what we've got coming up soon is pulling together a library of resources to help musicians firstly make the most of this downtime, to build up new skills, to think about how they can grow from business skills, marketing, whatever, but also to help them with their creativity. And the idea is that we want musicians to be ready to come out the traps when the industry can take off again. And our worry is that loads of musicians won't be in a position to do that because they won't have known how to keep their skills going. They may well be suffering from performance anxiety and stage fright. A lot of musicians don't even just know how to build up a network and to kind of keep those contacts going in order to find the work. So we think there's still a lot to do over the next year, really, to help musicians be creative, help them stay on top of their game, help them stay strong from a mental health perspective, and help them be ready for when it all reopens again. Because when it all reopens, we're going to be so thrilled.
Oh, wow. I mean, can you imagine the first gig back? It's I do think about it. I don't want to kind of what's the word? I don't want to, can't think of the word, torture myself,
Yeah.
But can't help but sort of idealize about things. I mean, how has COVID impacted your ability, Help Musicians UK, to fundraise support for your community, and what does this mean for the future?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, it's helped our fundraising in the short term massively, because fundraising, really, it's all about helping people see the need and believe that you can help fix that need if they support you. And of course, with the crisis that music's been in this year, it's actually been very easy to show music lovers why there's such a big need. And as we were saying a few minutes ago, that their heart kind of bursts for the situation of musicians. I think our worry for fundraising, and I think this will go for a lot of charities that work in music, is that once we see a few gigs coming back, and once we see a few people getting vaccines, everybody will start to think, oh, that's all right, the world's gone back to normal again. And actually, you and I know, for a start, the industry won't really have recovered the volume of work that needs to recover to support musicians until the end of 2021 at the earliest. And secondly, there'll be a lot of musicians with kind of issues that don't go away so easily when music returns. So we've been really thankful for the support we've had this year. We're really keen to work hard next year to demonstrate to people that there's still a really compelling need, and lots of good reasons to keep giving to support musicians. Because we aren't a hardship charity. That's not our normal business. We're a creative funder. We do health and well-being support, and we support musicians with business skills. Those are the three core things, and that's going to be relevant for decades to come. That kind of work. So our hope actually is that, having seen how important it is to support musicians, we can persuade people to keep on donating to us so that we can carry on that important work for many more years.
What does it mean for you, for Help Musicians UK, to be involved with Independent Venue Week?
Oh, it's great, isn't it? I mean, for a start, venues and musicians, they go together. You can't have one without the other, quite frankly. It's that close a relationship. So we are desperately keen. In the pandemic, we're desperately keen to see all venues survive, and we've been desperately keen for many years to help kind of celebrate the place of venues in the hearts of musicians and music lovers right across the country. So what Independent Venue Week does is really important, and we've enjoyed working alongside the team with Sybil and everybody, and in particular in recent years doing some work on mental health first aid training for some of those people who run venues, because actually, you know, if you're running a venue, you're in a position to see musicians at their highest point and at their lowest point quite often in the space of 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
wow.
if we can help venue owners to look out for musicians, actually, A, it's the right thing to do from human to human, but B, it will make those musicians want to go back to those venues time again and produce even more amazing shows because they feel looked after. So that, yeah, we don't, although our focus is helping musicians, we don't have the same focus as Independent Venue Week.
Yeah.
We want, I think our two missions need to succeed at the same time, don't they? For
yeah, you show such a fantastic understanding of all of the facets of, you know, the parts of the music industry and the kind of stages that musicians go through, you know. With the kind of undoubted stigma that mental health brings, have you found that people have found it easy? Have you been surprised at how easy it's been for people to come forward and ask for help, not just financially, but just picking up the phone in a moment where they feel they need to check in with somebody?
Well, I think everybody's getting better at talking about it, aren't they? And it always helps when musicians who have a profile kind of speak up about their own struggles, because we all look at the kind of musical heroes and assume that their life is wonderful and they've got everything sorted, and then we wonder why our lives aren't quite so good. So it's been lovely to see musicians from all sorts of genres speaking out and encouraging people to ask for help. I think my big thing for the next few years is to try and get people to reach out for help earlier. And you know, if you just think that the mental health issues and physical health issues have lots of similarities, if you start to feel a twinge somewhere, you should go to the doctor and get it sorted out before it becomes something much worse. If you feel a tiny lump, you should go and get it scanned before it becomes something much worse. And the same with mental well-being. If you think the things aren't just quite right, go and get some help and see if we can fix it before it becomes a bigger problem. And that's one of our big ambitions with Music Minds Matter in the coming year, is to increase the range of therapeutic services we can offer through that phone line, so that we can encourage more people to ring up, not at the last moment, not when they're feeling like they've reached rock bottom, but actually when they feel that first twinge and just wonder whether they need a bit of help and a bit of support. Because actually it's in all our interests to grab people at that first stumble.
Yeah, and to recognise it amongst our social circles and friends as well, you know, and that's one of the things I think you're doing really well, and it's just incredible, you know, incredible support. Just to kind of finish up on a slightly lighter note, when we are able to get back to shows, who would you like to see, who are you most looking forward to seeing, and perhaps where as well?
Well, obviously, I'm contractually obliged to say Primal Scream.
Me too.
I'll be there. I'll be right at the front for that one. So much. I love all sorts of music, and so you find me in all sorts of different places. I should have. So one of my, I was kind of, my kind of big musical time was late 80s, early 90s, and
that was an incredible time for music, by the way.
It was a brilliant time, and one of my favourite bands from that period is Crowded House. Not everybody's taste, but Neil Finn is such a great songwriter, and I should have been seeing them at the Roundhouse in July this year. So I cannot wait for them to reschedule those dates and go. I'll go anywhere where there's an atmosphere and where you see musicians doing something that no one else could do. It's completely unique. So whether you're at King's Place watching a string quartet, or in some sweaty bar watching a funk band like Wolfpack, who are one of my favourite bands from the States, I'll go anywhere for live. And actually, to be honest, if you're asking me where do I want to go most? Well, my eldest son Johnny, who's 18, is studying at music college in London. So actually, the gig I want to see more than anything else is the first one he does after.
I love that. Oh, that's so great. Well, listen, thank you so much, James, for joining us. And it's been a real pleasure to speak to you. And I look forward to seeing and hearing about everything that Help Musicians UK is doing. And just on a personal level, I'm more than happy to get behind and support what you do in any way I can ever help in the future as well.
Simone, thank you so much. We will reach out to you on that. I'm going to hold you to account on that pledge.
Please do. Please do. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
See you.
Cheers.
So we're at the beautiful Bush Hall here in Shepherd's Bush, available for bookings right now. And while we are here, we also wanted to hear from the team to see how this year has been for them. So we are welcomed with Betsy, who is the booker and events manager. Hello.
Hello, welcome to Bush Hall.
Oh, thank you for having us. It feels really good to be here, actually, even though there's only about 20 people here for the filming. How has it been for you as a venue this year?
It's been pretty hard, like we've definitely felt it. I mean, in one day in March, we had about 50 shows cancel or postpone. So we had, our whole calendar for this year was wiped. It's been hard, but it's looking up for next year.
In the run-up to the first lockdown, you had some amazing shows here, including
really
Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
And I've only just found this out, but you had Dave Chappelle.
We
which
did.
I can't believe it. How do you manage to bring so many amazing artists from around the world to play here?
I think we're pretty renowned, to be honest. I mean, we're an absolutely stunning venue, so we hope to bring people from all around the world. And we've actually been around for nearly 20 years. It's our 20th anniversary in February. So, yeah, I think that's probably why.
Do you think you'll be able to do any sort of celebration, or have you got anything planned?
Fingers crossed. We've got things in the pipeline, definitely.
Yeah.
But it all depends on regulations, doesn't it?
Of course. What does the future look like for you all here?
It's looking positive. We were really lucky to get the Cultural Recovery Fund, so we're looking like next year is going to be safer for us than we thought it was going to be.
And what have been some of your most memorable bands and musicians? I mean, I haven't played here, but I've come to see a lot of gigs here. What have been some of the most memorable bands and musicians for you personally?
God, it's really hard, that one. Alicia Keys, definitely. I cried.
Oh, yeah.
Beverly Glen Copeland, Timbra, Bombay Bicycle Club, which was amazing. Yeah. The list goes on. So many people.
Wow. And if you could program your very own dream lineup for a Welcome Back to Gigs show, who do you think you would have?
Obviously, Primal Scream.
Okay.
Nick Cave, definitely.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Fontaines DC, just because they've just done amazingly this year, and they've just been nominated for a Grammy. And then I just want to look after all the little young bands and local bands, and just get them to do loads of little shows here if we can.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just it's been made so much more aware to us how important grassroots music venues are. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we look forward to seeing more shows here, and thank you for joining us.
Thank
and
you for
letting
being
us
here.
Have this beautiful space today.
Thank you.
Newly painted as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's launch event is being brought to us by Yamaha's Bring Life to Life program, and we caught up with Chris Irvine, product manager for the Pro Audio division of Yamaha, to hear more about the campaign.
So I'm very pleased to be joined by Chris Irvine, who is the product manager for the Pro Audio division of Yamaha Music UK. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
No problem. Nice to meet you, Simone.
Lovely to meet you too. I must just say, Yamaha do make very good basses as well.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, Yamaha has a great history in music. And you have your consumer and your professional divisions. I'd imagine life has been very different for both areas of the business. Can you tell us how this year has been for both of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like everybody, really, globally, the year's just been bonkers. Work-wise, I work predominantly on the live side of things. We do touch over into music production as well, so a lot of home music production. On the live side of things, as you know yourself, it's been devastating.
Yeah.
From the minute things really start to kick off at the end of March, beginning of April, the live music industry just stopped. venues closed their doors, tours stopped happening, hire companies stopped putting out product. Everybody's pipeline of work just dried up. As a manufacturer, distributor, this affected us greatly as well. Working for Yamaha, you know, it is at times like this that I'm truly grateful to work for a brand such as Yamaha, where we do have multiple strings to our arm. So having all the musical instruments as well, you know, they've been a lifeline for us, and for many people as well, you know, because live music's one side of music, but actually playing, learning, this is all part of the process as well. So what we have noticed in the last year is that a lot of people have either taken up an instrument. So a lot of our beginner products have been very popular, but also people that have rekindled their passion to play or passion to learn. You know, like everybody, we've all been stuck at home, going out of our minds, looking for new things to do. You know, there's only so many Zoom and FaceTime calls you can do, pub quizzes and stuff. So yeah, I guess we've been searching for other things to do as well. And that's really invigorated sales of certain products. At the opposite end of that then brings other problems with it in the supply, you know, because as well as the entertainment industry, there's also the manufacturer side of things across the board, not just in music instruments, but the supply chains have been massively disrupted. So all the product that people want has been very hard to get hold of, because the factories, wherever they are, we have factories all over the world. Everybody's been affected. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster year. So yeah, it's been a year of challenges. One of the most frustrating parts about the year has been that every time we come up with an idea, because we're a positive bunch of people, so we're constantly looking for new things to do, new ways to get around the restrictions, new ways to kind of just keep music alive. But yeah, as I say, every time we come up with something, another restriction or another set of rules will come into play, and then we have to quickly rethink what we're doing again. So yeah, it's been a challenging year, I think, is the best way to summarize it.
Definitely. I mean, the good thing is that so many new players will be coming through, and that does tie in with independent venues as well, and the struggle that, you know, these places have been going through. And you've been working behind the scenes with Independent Venue Week since 2018, and this year also. And you're much more of a visible partner, so to speak. What is it about the initiative that made you want to get involved and be part of it?
Well, yeah, so I first met Sybil from Independent Venue Week end of 2018. I think it was at the BBC show at Tobacco Dock. We were introduced by an ex-colleague from Yamaha, a lady called Karen Watts. And as a musician myself, I play in an amateur band. We play in these grassroots venues. So the very idea of having a celebration of these venues on an annual basis really appealed to me. And it was like, well, yeah, I'm sure there's some way we can work together. So myself and Sybil started talking. We came up with a plan for the end of 2019. We were going to do a kind of a venue tour and take some of our gear along and do like an educational thing for up and coming engineers or for the technicians within the venue that wanted to try out some new gear. We got everything kind of to the point where we were just about to start booking dates, and then this thing called COVID happened. And it was like, okay. So I remember talking to Sybil, it was in March actually, and it was like, this isn't going to happen, is it? So yeah, we kind of had to put the brakes on that. And again, going back to what I was saying a moment ago, you know, about having to relook at plans and adjust plans. So this is what we've done a few times this year with Sybil and her team, is like, look at what can we do together? What can we do to help? You know, the Yamaha brand, the thing that I love about the company, and the reason I've been here for so long, it's kind of the ethos that I first learnt when I joined the company, and it's enriching people's life through music, and that is something that is ingrained in my spirit. And it's like, well, what can we do to help the venues? Because these venues are so important. You know, without them, how do people get to your stage in life? You know, you can't well, unless you go on the X Factor or something like that, you can't go from nothing to playing in an arena or at a festival.
No,
So you have to learn your craft, and without them, how are you going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, those are the venues, you know, for musicians, future musicians, and stage crew as well.
Absolutely,
where everybody's learning that arc of their career. It's not just musicians. It's actually, you know, venues in a smaller stage who might go on to be bigger venues, you know, bigger organisations. But your passion for music, you've been at Yamaha for 17 years now. You're clearly passionate about music and all aspects of it. And you've got a new campaign called Bring Live to Life.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know, what was the inspiration behind that, and what are your main objectives, and what are you looking to achieve with it?
Okay, yeah. So again, this is another campaign that's been fought with the difficulties of the year, but it was also born out of the difficulties of the year as well. So going back to what I was saying about celebrating music in all forms, you know, this is kind of what Bringing Life to Life was about. It's people will find a way to play music live, whether it's streaming or whether it's stood on the corner of their street. I mean, what we saw a lot in the spring and summer was people just doing little pop-up gigs in their front garden and stuff. I don't know if you saw this where you are, but where I am,
it sounds good though.
Yeah, where I am, it was happening quite a bit, and people were putting it on local Facebook groups. So it was definitely happening, and it was just like, you know, this is the sort of thing that this is enriching people's life with music, and this is the sort of thing I want to be involved in celebrating. So collectively across Europe, this is a European campaign. We've been putting our heads together, trying to come up with ways of how we can kind of pull all this together and kind of celebrate it. Some of my colleagues in the commercial audio team, they've been working with the LSO, London Symphonic Orchestra, who again, straight away overnight, their business just stopped. It was like, you know, they were putting on performances, full orchestral performances in their venue. They couldn't do that. So it's like, well, what do we do? Do we shut the doors and give up, or do we find a new way? So they teamed up with Yamaha, also our instrument department as well. They chipped in as well, and we created this collective where they were able to actually put together a system that enabled them to stream really high quality audio and video out to their audience, and it's allowed them to keep going. So that's one example. Another example is we've been working with some small venue stroke restaurants in London, where they found a way of being able to do socially distanced gigs by putting on food whilst you're watching the performances, and partnering with our shop in London. So we're very lucky to have a Yamaha shop in London. They were able to supply them some product and help them get their venue set up and COVID friendly. So it's just, you know, celebrating these little stories, these little wins that people are having. But like I said, it's constantly, the rules are changing every day. So I think from next week I'm able to go to the pub with my family bubble. It's like, well, how does that work from a musical side of things? So we're constantly having to relook at the plans. Working with Sybil, what we've been discussing with the Independent Venue Week and independent venues is how can we help them? And that's kind of where we're at now. So we're sort of looking at, you know, what streaming solution can Yamaha offer, and how can we assist the venues? So what we're looking to do is to get on board with the Independent Venue Week in January, and actually go out to a few venues and put on some streamed events to support the venues in doing that, helping them with the finance of it, but more so helping them with the education of what do you need? You know, because it's all, you know, we've seen lots of streamed things happening, over the last year. But it's like, well, how do you actually do this, and how do you deliver the quality that people want? Just to give them a bit of a chance to survive. I mean, some of them doing it already anyway, very successfully. But then there's others that might not have the budget, they might not have the know-how. So if we can share a bit of that love, we can get involved, we can help them use our audience. So, you know, by sharing this on the Yamaha, which has a global audience, you know, they can use that to their advantage. They can leverage that and maybe do a crowdfunding campaign based off the back of it. Same with the bands that perform, you know, they will get the opportunity to have a global audience with really high quality streamed and mixed performance.
Well, I think it's incredible. You know, everything in every way, in every facet, the way Yamaha, who is one of the industry leaders in the music industry, both on the performance and instrumental side. I think it's amazing how you're, you know, lending your resources and getting involved, you know, so fantastically.
What I would say is, as a more general kind of my vision of it, is that I think what the venues and what the industry will take from this experience is hopefully the best bits. So I don't think we can ever replace live music. You know, that spit and sawdust venues, the smell of the venue, the interaction. You know, I've just moved home and I've been sorting out boxes and stuff and finding all my old ticket stubs from the gigs I went to. I mean, streamed events are brilliant, you know, that you can get that intimate performance, but it's not that social engagement, is it? You won't have the memories of, oh yeah, we went on the bus that day and then we missed the bus and we had to sleep in the train station for 6 hours until the first bus arrived.
That's just the band.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the bit that you can never replace. But where I think that there's some really good to come out of it is in making your audience much bigger. So from the venues and the band's perspective, you know, to be able to share the performance with the bigger world, it gives you a bigger window into that world. So use it as an advertising mechanism, you know, to show your brand, because some of these venues are amazing. You know, they do such a good job. It's so much hard work. And you know, to just be able to just share a bit of that with the world. So there might be artists out there that, you know, coming from other countries that are doing very well, and they might want to do a grassroots venue tour of the UK, but not really know where to go. And they might see something and think, oh, I really need to go to that venue. So I think it will open up opportunities in that respect. I just hope we, you know, the venues survive it. It's tough. It's really tough. And all the people that work in them as well, you know, the technicians, the bar staff, everybody.
It's such a plethora of other sister industries, isn't it? You know, like
it's an ecosystem.
Lighting riggers, monitor guys, front of house production, tour managers. It's really not just about gigs. I mean, it is about gigs, but it's like, you know, as much as you diversify in Yamaha, you see it, you know, how it unfolds and how it affects all these areas yourself, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is an ecosystem. Our business slots into that. Your business slots into that. We all need each other. The whole of society fits into it. You know, it's if people lose their job, they won't go out and buy a guitar for Christmas, and then the guitar teachers don't get work. Then the venues don't have the fresh supply of talent coming through, and the recording studios, and then the TVs have nothing to put on the stage. We're all connected. It is such a fragile, and that's what this experience has really taught me, and probably all of us, is how fragile the whole thing is.
Well, I have all the hope that we can come together. We are, and really look forward to hearing and seeing and talking to you more over Independent Venue Week in January in 2021. Really looking forward to that. And thank you so much for all your support so far.
You're very welcome.
And it's been a real pleasure talking to you. So
Nice
thank you very
one.
much.
You too.
Bye, Chris.
Cheers. Thank
Bye.
you.
So we're all fully aware that as we announce plans for Independent Venue Week 2021, there's still so much uncertainty about what will be possible across the week, even with less than 2 months to go. Many venues are still closed, with staff on furlough. They won't be opening their doors again until they can open fully with 100% capacity, which we totally understand and respect. Others have been holding socially distant shows over the last few months, which has been a new experience for all of us. Watching an artist while sat at a table being bought drinks in a venue where we would normally be down the front, amongst others jumping around and dancing, has been amazing given these times. But we all long to get back to gigs as we know and love them. And we've heard from so many people in our community that have asked us to please make sure that Independent Venue Week does go ahead, and they've been planning their activity for some weeks and months now. What everyone has said is that things like Independent Venue Week is needed now more than ever, and that they want to kick off 2021 with a sense of optimism and to look to the future in a positive way. So just to remind you why venues are such amazing places, not just for live music, but for getting together with friends, meeting new people who share your passion for live music and having the best night out. Here's what we can tell you so far. 2021 is the 8th consecutive year for Independent Venue Week, the country's largest national celebration of grassroots music venues with a very local feel. This year, we run from Monday the 25th of January to Sunday the 31st of January. 50 venues have signed up so far. 7 venues taking part in Independent Venue Week for the first time. 37 different villages, towns and cities. 82% of venues outside of London. 65% of venues outside major cities. 2 venues taking part are less than 1 year old. 65% of venues have been part of Independent Venue Week for 3 years or more. Youngest venue is Future Yard, Birkenhead. January is a great time for Independent Venue Week because traditionally it means getting people off of their sofas after dry January, discovering brand new artists and talent. Venues have been quiet and love people coming through the doors. Now, I don't know about you, but we are all looking forward to putting 2020 well and truly behind us. However, you're able to enjoy Independent Venue Week. We really hope that you do take part, and there's lots you can do as well. For example, you can watch a live stream. You can go to socially distant shows as and when they're possible. You can enjoy other online events hosted by our venues, including interview, quizzes, comedy nights and documentaries. And you can also buy merch from a venue, artist label or from our shop. Details for all of our shows can be found on the tickets and info page at independentvenueweek.com. And this page is constantly being updated with new shows between now and the week itself. You can also follow us on social media, of course. It's IVW_UK for Twitter and Instagram, and /Independent Venue Week for Facebook. Talking of tickets, let's hear from Rob Wilmshurst, head of C Tickets, who are the official ticketing partner this year for Independent Venue Week.
So really happy to be chatting to Rob Wilmshurst, who is the CEO of C Tickets. Hi Rob, thanks for joining us.
Hi Simone, thanks. And I think the pleasure's all mine. And before we start, congratulations on your career.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw that in.
Yeah, good. Well, let's hope that after this whole virus thing, there's some of it left. Now, you've been working in, everybody knows C Tickets. I mean, you've been working in live music for years. How many years have you been working in live music?
30.
30, okay. So there we go. You're a seasoned veteran.
Before you were born, probably.
No, I was born a bit older than 30.
I'm full of charm. It's Friday afternoon.
Yeah, it's all the tears. So you've been working in music for about, let's say, 30 years. With grassroots live venues, all the way up to stadiums and arenas and huge festivals, including our beloved Glastonbury. How has your involvement over the years grown with these events?
It's a good question. I think to answer that question, I'd have to go back to 30 years ago, and we had a record shop in Nottingham, and that's where we started the business, and we used to sell tickets over the counter for the local venues there. And I remember Radiohead playing over the road at a place called the Imperial.
Amazing.
A big pub which doesn't exist anymore, like we see these things come and go. And of course the business evolved away from records towards call center and then the internet and everything else. But I think our roots, being in music for as long as they have kept us close to the scene, but we've also diversified away towards exhibitions and cultural events and theatre and all this stuff. But let's stick on theme. But yeah, I think it's interesting this, because when Sybil approached us to sponsor it, and she had before really, and I think it was Sybil's force of personality and me actually meeting her for the first time in Soho that drove me to do this. And I realised, and we go to some of these social events and you talk to some of the venues or clients and they'll say, well, you're too big for us or you won't look after us. But we've always looked after these people. So I think our involvement in this is largely to recommit to the scene. It is where we're from. And to show people that we really do care. We're putting money into this, as you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think anything's changed. Look, we've compartmentalised and departmentalised our business to deal with the Glastonburys, but also deal with, I don't know, a good example would be the Boiler Room, one of our favourite small clients. And we've got a few already that contribute to this. But look, we are a business. We see it from, through a business prism. And, we want to support people. It's never been about us. It's about the venues, it's about the clients, it's about the bands. Without that, we have nothing. We're a conduit between the artist, the venue, the promoter, and the customer. So we have a duty of care to all those stakeholders, and we're very much the minority partner in some respects, and the people who sit behind the scenes. But that's it's like the answer to your question directly. I don't think anything's really changed. It's got bigger. Technology has a huge part to play. The numbers are bigger. The investment we put into these things is much bigger. But I don't think our attitude has ever changed from when we stood behind a counter in a record shop and sold. It's big, good old days.
I think it's incredible. I wasn't aware that you started off from that beginning. It's incredible, really.
It's been a ride, that's for sure.
Testament to your passion and your dedication to music. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
I mean, the live music industry this year has been. It's an understatement to say it's been shaken down to its foundation. There are parts of it that are really going to struggle to survive, parts of it that will go under. And there's so much uncertainty that we're all trying to adapt to. How have you coped and how have you been able to support your partners in all this?
It's another good question. Of course, I had it in advance. Let's not mess around here. And I did think about it. I don't really look. The smart answer is we have to support the industry, otherwise we don't have a job. We've invested a lot in technology to make our clients' lives easier. So whilst the pandemic has been a social and economic and health tragedy, struggle to get my words out, we've tried to invest in something so when we come out of this, it's a better experience for everybody, customers and clients. So we've doubled down our investment on that. But it's not been easy. Look, we're dealing with small promoters. They're passionate about what they do, and venues. They have possibly a life savings in these businesses. They've been absolutely rocked. It's horrendous for them. We've done our best to support people as best we can. Look, I don't want to go too much into the economics of the business, but there's a lot of money flying around. So of course, shows get cancelled. We have to refund those customers.
Yeah.
So some examples could be, I wouldn't call it debt forgiveness, but we've been, friendly regards taking money back from clients when we've refunded customers. We've tried to do everything we can. We've tried to, communicate the client's wishes in the best way to the customer. We've taken pain in some respects because, our clients have had a lot of other things to deal with. And we're a well-resourced business. We've got good communication channels. We've got a good customer service team. We've got very good communications out to the wider marketplace. So really, it's a combination of economics and communication and pragmatism, really. Because if we failed in our duty to look after all those stakeholders I spoke to before, then post-COVID, we're not going to be seen in a good light. And I don't think anyone should see our involvement in this as in any way cynical. I think it's I wouldn't call it us giving anything back, and in part it is, but it is reminding the smaller segment that we remain committed to it, and you are not too small for us, and we're here for you, and all that fluffy stuff that we like.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I mean, you've alluded to it anyway, but the grassroots music venues and that part of the industry is kind of where it's kind of why the arenas and the bigger venues and the bigger stages are able to exist, because it's a natural part of the growth of any band, that have a certain amount of longevity. Why is it, I mean, you've touched on this in your answer just now, but why is it that C-Tickets are so passionate about working with the grassroots live music industry?
I think, look, we're a business that started, as we said before, in a record shop. We're in a university town. We've got a lot of young people, and it's interesting. We've had some personalities roll through. We had Jason from Sleaford Mods. He worked with us for a while. He actually wrote a song about the management of the business. I don't think it was about me.
Which one was that?
It was called Fizzy.
Okay, I'll have to.
Yeah, have a look at that. Yeah, it's not me. That's for sure. But look, we're very proud of him for going on and doing what he's done. It'd be interesting. I sat next to him on a plane coming back from Barcelona last summer. We just happened to both be in the same city at the same time, so we were doing something there. So I think there's that DNA, for want of a better term, this Friday afternoon, rolling through the business that is continuous.
Yeah.
We're bringing young people into the business. We try and promote from within as well. A lot of people have been with us decades as well, that started, in their early 20s while they were students. And I think it's, and so to your point about passion, I think we're fans, and having fans servicing clients and be able to talk about who's on stage tonight and what you think of this, that, and all the rest of it is an advantage. But when I say that, we don't position ourselves as tastemakers or curators. We don't put a spin on what we sell. A lot of the business we do is transacted in what we call a white label format. So if you were, again, I'll use the Boiler Room as an example. If you were to transact with the Boiler Room, you would think you were transacting with them. You're buying a ticket directly from them. So we are very much in the background. And that's also a big part of our service set. And it comes out, we're passionate about our clients and what they do. And it'd be ridiculous for them for us to tell them to operate in a different way. We're there for them. But we enjoy it, and we get a lot of good feedback from that. And so may we reign forever.
I suppose it's also good because you're securing relationships with very young bands and young venue owners, and it strengthens the entire network in a way.
I think so. Look, it's a competitive marketplace we're in.
Yeah.
We've never been involved in ticket touting and all this type of stuff. We've never, damaged our company reputation by anything like that. So I think we've got credibility in the marketplace. You know all about Glastonbury. You know what we do there.
Yeah.
And we've worked with 20 years, and we've really eradicated all touting. So I think ethically, if that's the right word, I think we're seen in a good light.
Yeah.
But we can always do more. Did I actually answer your question, or did I just forget it?
No, you did. It was basically to say, why are you so passionate about working with the grassroots live music industry?
Yeah.
I think you've eloquently answered that already.
Okay.
And you've chosen to be one of the official ticketing partners for Independent Venue Week. Was there anything that made you specifically wanted to partner up with them, what does the initiative of IVW mean to C-Tickets?
I think it's but I think it's us involving ourselves in something that does matter.
Yeah.
We looked at it before, and we'd seen competitors dive in there. It didn't feel right for us at the time. We're not a sponsor machine. It's not what we do.
No,
we think anyone can throw money around to establish reputation and brand. We didn't feel we needed to do that at the time, because we didn't. We weren't establishing a business. We'd been around a long time. Everybody knew us. So why are we going to throw money at something to have our logo somewhere? We could do it if we wanted to, but everything was fine and dandy then, wasn't it? Yeah. Sybil called me, she sent me a load of emails in a very strange font, which is really hard to read.
I do like the font, actually.
I can't read it. I need glasses. And then I'd never met Sybil. I'd spoken to her a few times and her team, and I went to see them in Soho. And I walked into an office that looked like they cared about what they did. It was a real deal. I'm sure you've been there. And I thought, wow,
yeah,
their thing. And I was what's the word? They were captivated in some way. And I thought, look, we can help. The industry needs help. It's a good place for us to deploy some money. I think there's some goodwill that will come out of it towards us, but it's not an economic decision at all. I wouldn't call it charity either. Somewhere in the middle. But it reestablishes our credentials and reminds people that we do exist, and we exist for the right reason, and we're there to help.
Yeah. Well, I think it's brilliant what you're doing. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
Same here.
Go into some detail about what you do and how you started and how you do it all. So let's hope we can meet at a venue or a gig very soon in the near
You
future.
stick me on the guest list and I'll be there.
Get us a gig and then we'll turn up.
I'll do the best.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Please.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Independent Venue Week has had some amazing ambassadors over the years, championing venues and their communities, and these have included Colin Greenwood from Radiohead, Adrian Utley from Portishead, Frank Turner, Wolf Alice, Tim Burgess, Nadine Shaw, Jamie Cullum, Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC, Novelist, and Big Jeff from Bristol. Last year, the incredible Anna Calvi stepped up to the role as ambassador, playing 2 shows at the Windmill in Brixton on the Friday night, 1 live on air for Stephen Mack's show on BBC Six Music. Let's catch up with Anna now to hear how being an ambassador was for her and how she spent time this year.
So we're really excited to please welcome Anna Calvi. Hello.
Hi.
It's been a pretty crazy year, to say the least. That is a bit of an understatement. How have you managed to stay creative in this current climate?
I think it's at the beginning I found it really hard. I think it's just getting used to having a new sort of rhythm to work, to creative work, and I think it's highlighted the need for kind of prioritizing your mental health and self-care, and that you can't really be creative if your mind is all kind of messed up and you're feeling really anxious. So I guess it's encouraged me to focus on those things more, which in turn has actually helped my writing. So I just make sure I get enough exercise and just all the obvious things that just kind of allow there to be room to be creative.
Yeah, it's definitely been a time to kind of focus on the really like things I guess we take for granted, and the very simple things as well that go actually a long way amidst all this. So despite everything that's been going on, what have been some of the highlights for you in the last sort of 11-12 months?
I mean, like really simple things like spending more time with my family. I mean, like one thing about being a touring musician is that you're not really home very much. I've spoken to quite a few musicians where obviously we're really sort of, sad that our shows have been cancelled, and obviously there's the economic worry. But the part where you actually get to kind of spend some time, in your own home and, socially distanced, family members and stuff. That's the part for me that's been nice to have time to do that. Yeah.
What was it like stepping into the role of ambassador for Independent Venue Week? Because that's been your role this year. How was that?
Yeah. Well, it was a massive honour, and I think it's such an important thing for people to kind of focus on, because I mean, even before the pandemic happened, I think, from an audience perspective, but also from an artist perspective, that's how you learn your craft, to be playing in these small venues. You come across other bands, you make friendships for life, and you feed each other, all the musicians playing all the bands, you watch the other bands, and this is how scenes are created. It's kind of the hotbed for creativity and creative life. So, and then, obviously, what a year for, in terms of, what's been happening for venues now is such a difficult situation. And so I think it's such important work that, Independent Venue Week does. It's even more important now than ever.
Yeah, very true. How important would you say grassroots venues have been to you in your own career over the years?
I think they've been really fundamental. For me, I'm very much, my music kind of sounds best live, and that's something that you have to learn to be a good live musician, because it's very different from playing in your bedroom where everything's safe and like, you know, no one's watching. And
Yeah.
everything changes when you're on stage in front of an audience for the first time. You know, when you're singing notes that are fine to sing when you're at home suddenly become really difficult. You know, guitar stuff that you think is really easy, it's like the adrenaline completely changes your ability to play, and it takes a long time, you know, to learn how to do that and get over those kind of anxieties. And you can only do it from trial and error. And so I think these smaller venues are such a great way for artists, before necessarily they're having massive audiences where they're going to be judged, you know, to really learn their craft. And it's a craft as much as songwriting is a craft. So I wouldn't be the musician I am without having played those venues.
I have seen you play live, and your live shows are incredible. You put 2000% into it, and the one you did with Jenny Beth as well was incredible.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Just so passionate, you know. I mean, do you have any advice for younger musicians and performers coming up? Not so much, you know, for, you know, advice for the moment, of course that's part of it, but just in general, people who want to really get out there and you know, be performing.
I would say just, you know, focus on what you're good at, and be aware of that, and but also don't be afraid of what you're not good at, because sometimes that can make the difference between you and someone else. You know, it's like you just have to be quite perceptive in a way of just seeing what other people might see in you, and sometimes it's really obvious and sometimes it isn't, like what you're good at, but it's something that's worth exploring. You know, what do I feel really comfortable doing, and what makes me feel a little bit uneasy, and it's that place in between that's where something interesting might happen. And just, you know, really practice hard, I guess. Like, you know, get good at what you do, so that if someone says something offensive to you or doesn't believe in you, you can be like, well, I know I'm good at what I do, so, you know, you can F off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you get a lot of that at the beginning. Like, I had loads of people say stuff to me that, you know, if I hadn't had real belief, you know, I could have been put off. So
yes, that's really hard to imagine, but it's funny how common it actually turns out to be, and it takes you a while to get into the stride of your career, whatever that word means, you know, to sort of be able to relinquish those criticisms, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any bands specifically that you're looking forward to seeing in the near future, when we can, or any venues that you're really wanting to get to and play at as well?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about how I'd love to see Fountains DC play, because I really love their new record, and I just think they're such a special band, and I bet live they would be incredible. And Idols as well. I mean, I'm actually supporting Idols at Brixton Academy. I'm super excited about that gig.
When is that?
I think it's like, maybe it's in May or something, but I can't remember exactly. But I just know I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah.
And Jenny Beth, actually, I saw her. I think she's only done like one big show for her new record, but it looks so awesome. So I think she's going to be really amazing, you know, when she gets to do festivals and stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, we none of us can wait. No. Before we reveal the new ambassador of International Venue Week 2021, do you have any advice for them?
Well, I think the role that they're going to take on now is, you know, as important as ever. You know, probably the most important time for someone to take on this role, and I think it's just about, you know, whenever you can, to kind of really promote venues that are struggling. Like at the moment, the Windmill in Brixton is trying to crowdfund, and you know, I hope that, you know, she, and I'm sure she will, whoever the new person is. Sorry. You know, that this is like a really important cause, because the Windmill is an example of a venue that's really been such a source of creativity for so many bands.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the luck with your music and your live shows, and we can't wait to see you on stage again. And thank you again for all the work you've done for IBW this year. And yeah,
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
So it's time now to hand over the ambassadorial baton to the Independent Venue Week Ambassador for 2021. I'm so pleased to introduce the amazing Arlo Parks.
Hello, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have these for you.
Oh, amazing.
Which
Thank
you can maybe sort of fashion into a pyramid and reenact the advert perhaps. But I'm going to hand them to you in a bit more of a sort of COVID-safe manner afterwards.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you here. I mean, despite everything, you have been a real standout artist of 2020, I have to say. You were in the list of breakthrough acts of 2020 in the annual BBC poll of music critics, which was probably, if you can please them, you can please anyone. And you went on to win BBC's 2020 Introducing Artist of the Year.
Yeah, that was amazing, especially because I kind of started my journey by uploading tracks to the uploader when I was 16. Wow. And then now to have that full circle of like being their Artist of the Year was really special.
Oh, that's so good. You also won the BBC Radio 1's Tune of the Week for Black Dog. I loved that track so much.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to keep going on and on with all the accolades now. You won the AIM Independent Music Awards for the One to Watch in 2020 as well. I mean, of course, you know, thinking on an independent vibe, you know, it's great. I think it's a great example for new artists coming up as well.
Definitely.
You did play shows in January and February this year, but they were cut short because of you know what.
Yeah.
What were some of the highlights of those, despite them being cut short?
I mean, my first headline show ever was in Berlin, and that was at the Berghain Canteen, and it was the first time that I heard people, like a whole room of people singing my words back to me. You know, it's that realization that, oh my goodness, I'm actually making things that are touching people, like real people who've paid to come and see me, and to be able to meet them afterwards and like hug everyone. I mean, before we knew that this was happening, and just have that, you know, people saying, oh, you inspired me to write, or oh, you inspired me to try to pursue my dreams of being a musician. And to be able to inspire people like that was incredible.
That's so amazing to hear. I mean, speaking of inspirations, who have been some of your personal inspirations musically?
There are a lot of people. I mean, especially thinking of like independent artists, a lot of the artists that I looked up to, people like, you know, Radiohead or like Phoebe Bridgers, even like Adele got her start as an independent artist. And like those were always the people I looked up to, people like Angel Olsen or Bon Iver. So I was always very inspired to be independent just because of the kind of creative vision that afforded me, and so those are kind of my favorite artists. And
I mean, speaking of other acts, are there any other acts that you would really love to work with as well?
Oh my goodness, so the list is very, very long. I would love to work with like Frank Ocean or Solange. I think that would be amazing. I'd love to work with like a producer kind of outside of my genre, so maybe like Flying Lotus or Madlib or something like that.
God.
That would be incredible.
Can we make that happen, please? Can we? Are there any specific acts or bands, musicians that you're really looking forward to seeing live as and when we can safely?
Oh my goodness, so many. That's so tough. There's this band called Big Thief that I've really fallen in love with. Especially like the singer Adrian Linker has like the most poetic and like heartbreaking, cutting lyrics, which I love. I really want to see Joseph, who's a friend of mine, and he was also on the Sound Poll last year. And I mean, there are so many artists. What I'm looking forward to is being able to just walk into like a little random venue like in the middle of nowhere and just see someone who I've never heard of and just fall in love with them, you know. That sense of just finding one of those little spots, you know, whether I'm traveling or I think that's where the magic really happens, even at festivals, you know, when you stumble into a tent with one of your mates at 2 a.m. and you discover someone incredible.
I miss that too. Festivals are magic. You kind of like lose sense of all time, don't you? It's a really beautiful thing. Your new album comes out during Independent Venue Week. Was there a time when you thought you might want to release it when you can back it up with confirmed touring and dates, or did that not bother you so much? You just wanted to get the music out there?
I mean, I think for me, of course, playing live is a massively important part of things, but especially in times like these, people need need music. People need that solace. And me,
Totally.
as a music lover, I've been listening to more albums than ever before during this time. So I kind of wanted to give people something to uplift them and keep them company, even if we were still, you know, in COVID times.
Yeah, definitely. And your debut album, congratulations on that. I'm so excited to hear it all. Debut album, Collapsed in Sunbeams, is out on the 29th of January 2021 on Transgressive. I'm kind of enthralled by the title Collapsed in Sunbeams. Was there an idea behind that? Because it's like such an image of positivity in crazy weird times.
Yeah, I mean, so the phrase actually came from this book called On Beauty by Zadie Smith that I love. And as you say, it's that sense of like bitter sweetness, you know, it's that sense of like kind of surrendering to emotion, whether it is joyful or melancholy. And for me, it just had that, as you said, it just kind of struck me. And because this album is such a time capsule of like my adolescence and the things that have shaped me, it just felt right to have that kind of positive summary image as well. Yeah.
I cannot wait. That's the 29th of January 2021 on Transgressive, just in case you didn't catch that. How have things changed for you since your debut EP, which, by the way, amassed about 3 million streams on Spotify? Just putting that
Just
out there.
putting that
Just
out
3 million. Yeah, how do you think things have changed?
A lot of things have changed in terms of, you know, the breadth of the platform that I have and the opportunities that I've had. I mean, when that EP came out, I was still at school, so music was very much something that I was doing on the side, kind of like as an addition to my studies. But then I've had this year where I've been doing it full time, and I've been able to, you know, travel the world and you know, go to Rome and film something for Gucci and like do all this crazy stuff. And but you know, at the end of the day, I feel like as a human being, I'm kind of have the same values and the same way of writing. Like I just sit in my bedroom and write, and I'm still just like playing Scrabble with my dad every night, and just like, you know, there's no like, I'm not like a rock star. My dad wins every time. Yeah. So it's definitely been a journey, you know, and it's been strange to finally have people, you know, listening to my music, because I was thinking earlier of like when I would play these little venues, like there was this one called the Basement Door in Richmond, and everyone was just like, it was me and like some kids from school who I knew like kind of vaguely played the drums, and we were just all kind of figuring it out, and no one was really listening. Like there was probably like 3 people there. But then now to be, you know, supporting Lorcana at Ali Pali and like doing these shows, these intimate shows as well for myself, like being able to play in places like Glasgow, King Tut's, all of this. It's just been a journey, and I've loved it.
You seem really in your element and happy with where you're at. You know, it suits you.
Thank you.
So what made you want to accept the role of Independent Venue Week Ambassador this year?
I mean, specifically as an emerging artist, like most of my live experience has been in independent venues. You know, they are the kind of building blocks specifically for emerging artists. Like they nurture emerging talent. And I've had so many, just as like a music lover, I've had so many beautiful moments in these venues. And especially in times like these, I think it's important to kind of step forward and step up and use my platform to support them, especially as a lot of them are sadly struggling in this time. So I hope that I can just use my voice to like, for good.
Well, it's the perfect choice, and I think you're going to be absolutely brilliant. You also have a tour booked in for 2021, many of the dates of which have already sold out. That's incredible. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We know it's so important to tour in venues like these, but what has playing in these venues meant to you over the years? I mean, you kind of answered it a little bit before, but
yeah. I mean, I think for me, especially, you know, even before I was even properly Arlo Parks, like even when I was playing, like I played gigs at this place called like Paper Dress Vintage in Hackney.
I know that place. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like half a vintage dress shop, half
exactly,
a gig.
Exactly. And playing spots like that really kind of helped me gain confidence and find my feet, like as a performer. And I love the fact that all these venues have their little like idiosyncrasies and have that like one person who's so nice to you and like brings you extra biscuits and stuff. You know, there's that like familial vibe, which I really love.
What do you have any advice for kind of people who are wanting to get into it? Maybe just trying to find their feet, their confidence, their style, the ability to kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. Like, do you have any advice for someone in in the very beginning stages?
I think, I mean, in these times, unfortunately, like playing live isn't as much of an option. I would say, when things do open up again, just taking that opportunity to play wherever you can, whether there's like an open mic near you, and bring a few friends to kind of make you feel comfortable. And I think it's just about playing a lot, because that's the only way you get better at something, right? Practice. And I would say for an artist, like in these times right now, now's the time to experiment, to write songs, to make mistakes, to discover what you like and what your taste is, what your sound is, so that when you are kind of exposed to the world and an audience, you have an idea of who you are, and you feel confident in that.
And what do you enjoy most about being a performer?
I think I love how, specifically for me, how like people completely throw themselves into the gig as much as I do. Like every time at gigs, I look out into the crowd and I see people's faces like glowing, and people dancing, people crying, people like having real moments to my music. And it just feels so human. Like there's no other place where you're experiencing something all together at the same time, this love for music and for art, and no one's judging each other. Everyone's just having a great time. And that's like the best thing ever.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible to hear you talk so passionately about it as well. What's next for you?
What's next? I mean, so yeah, I've got the album coming out in January, which is exciting. Hopefully playing shows, as we said. I'm hoping to like put out a collection of poems, and just kind of explore, just play as much as I can, wherever I can. I'm so excited for festivals to come back as well. That's going to be beautiful. And just playing, I mean, my goal with music has always been to be able to play all over the world and reach people everywhere, and just kind of do this for the rest of my life. That's my like goal. Yeah.
Well, I have no doubt that you will. Arlo Parks, it's been such an immense pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on being the ambassador for Independent Venue Week in 2021. We look forward to what all of that brings.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
That's nearly it for now, but there are a few more things to talk about before we get to the live performance. If you've been missing live music, the third ever Independent Venue Week live record is hitting the shops and our online store on the 11th of December. But you can pre-order Independent Venue Week Live 2020 now at our online shop. Just visit independentvenueweek.com. Limited edition vinyl only and 250 copies. Artists on this year's record were recorded at shows during Independent Venue Week 20 from the Smokehouse in Ipswich, the Tin Music and Arts in Coventry, the Lead Mill in Sheffield, and at a one-off special show at the 100 Club in September. Artists on the record include Anna Calvi, Sleaford Mods, The Howl and the Hum, Self-Esteem, W.H. Lung, Earth Mother Penelope Isles, along with a reading of a beautiful poem written by Louisa from She Drew the Gun. The other artists to appear on the record also did a very special live performance for us at a closed COVID-safe show at the Strings venue on the Isle of Wight. It's the absolutely brilliant Billy Nomates. We had a chat with Billy, but before we share that with you, here's her incredible performance.
Yes! 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 Yes!
No is the greatest resistance. No to your nothing existence. No is a walk, no small talk. No, I don't think it looks better. Yes, we are stronger together. But no is a power. Anytime, any place. No, I won't die on your floor. No, I'm not righteous anymore. I know I don't fit in your pocket. And I won't shave everything off. Because I'm not 12. Yes, I'm gonna put in the hours. No to your ivory towers. No's gonna start a war. What's to die if you think it's worth fighting for? Everybody twist for me. Come on and crack your knees for me. Bend your back, please, baby. please, baby. No. No, when they don't hear the answer, be nobody's tiny dancer. And no, it's not always for the best. People run off just because they can. Yes, I am the same as him. No, I don't feel like celebrating. Yes, it's true what they say sometimes. No to protein shakes and mirrors. Yes to running at night fearless. No dying to get skinny, trust me. No to consuming the digital narratives. No to the pointless comparatives. These people mostly hate themselves. I've been one of them. Yeah, have my word. Everybody twist for me. Come on and crack your knees for me. Bend your back up, please, baby. No. Everybody twist for me. Oh, come on and crack your knees for me. Bend your back up, please, baby. No. Everybody twist for me. Yeah, oh, come on and crack your knees, honey. Yeah, bend your back up, please, baby. No. He knows the codes to crack. He watches me break my back. I'm a slow learner, but I'm getting the hang of it. He's only just 16. Law school, flat screen. He studied it with his studious eyes. Nothing or no one takes him by surprise. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Silent rain on my parade, where you say things like I'm tall and I'm brave. I'm scared. Well, my boy, there's nothing for ya. The world, yes, it will ignore ya. You'll get the hang of it. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Do they? Do they? Do they? Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it, but they don't do shit. No, they don't do shit, do they? Fuck it, I quit the future. I'ma live in the past. What's it to ya? Things were better. I was younger, a little thinner, cause I had hunger. Silver bladder future. You have spoiled your youth. They have debilitating choice. They got a megaphone for their unheard voice. Back in my day, I had nothing. We lived in happy misery. We lived in happy misery. We lived in happy misery. Ah, come off it. Those machines are gonna eat you first. I want no part of the modern world, cause that bubble's gonna burst. the summer of 81. I was tanned and sleeping with everyone. I got a job in the factory around a month later. I lived off 80 pounds a week for that grueling labor, but we actually danced on a Friday night. We smoked inside the pub and we started old-fashioned fights. Well, that's just Britain, it was hard, it was grim. But I only want to visit the places I've already been. Well, back in my day, I had nothing. We lived in happy misery. We lived in happy misery. We lived in happy misery. Back in my day, I had nothing. We lived in happy misery. 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 We did. We lived in happy misery, didn't we? We lived in happy misery. We did. We lived in happy misery. Well, I'm sorry I can't stop and chat. No, I won't be signing up for that. It's okay, I'm a terrible person. I wanna save the whales too. It's a fucking Wednesday afternoon. So a canvas bag and a smile is the best I've got for you. All the things that do, I don't disagree. Hug a tree, for me. Hug a tree, for me. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. Hug a tree, for me. Hug a tree, for me. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. Well, I haven't thrown myself in the road yet, or chained myself to a jumbo jet. Avoiding plastics, not very dramatic, is it? Well, one time I cycled all the way home, because this planet is the only one. But nobody saw it, and I felt all the worse for it. It wasn't my bike. All the things that do, I don't disagree. Don't disagree. Hug a tree, for me. Hug a tree, yeah, for me. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. Hug a tree, for me. Hug a tree, for me. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. If I had all that money in my pocket, drink all that local beer and ride that eco rocket, organically hand-fed idols, transient low-res primal. You know, we all just do the best we can. And time and tide to wait for no woman. I just can't clean the entire ocean on my lunch break. Oh no! All the things that do, I don't disagree. Don't disagree. Hug a tree, for me. Hug a tree, yeah, for me. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. Hug a tree, I will tell everybody. For me, I just shop local. Hug a tree, my bamboo banner. For me, I take the rhino, baby. If I could only quit my job or join the hippie elite. Clean up in aisle 7. There he spilled his guts out again. He's all over the cereal, and people are starting to complain. Well, he might not never have wanted this life. And we took him off frozen goods for a while. Maybe the monotony is here to stay, he thought. In every dead-end job, in every dead-end town. Eskimo Steve, who led the frozen team, his heart had sunk. I remember just last week in the corner there, he collapsed in a heap of happy potato faces, and we all just thought the cold was getting to him, because it does. Maybe the monotony is here to stay, he thought, in every dead-end job, in every dead-end town. Maybe the monotony is here to stay, he thought, in every dead-end job, in every dead-end town. Well, supermarkets are strange places, and they get even stranger at night, where every animal comes to gaze on a box of dinner. And while you were deciding which soup was nice, Mary's soul was getting swept away with puffed up rice. Maybe the monotony is here to stay, he thought, in every dead-end job, in every dead-end town. Maybe the monotony is here to stay, he thought, in every dead-end job, in every dead-end town. Mudslinger, door ringer, there's a right way, wrong way through it. I've been waiting in the wings, hearing everything's burning up or melted into it. Well, who you gonna run to now? They've moved out, and your new neighbors, they don't see the world like you do. Hide in the newspapers, patch up that hole in the fence, where you never know who's looking, do you? The walls have been whining and dining, the air has been thick and divided. Beware as the temperature rises. Yeah, people will be full of surprises. 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 Mudslinger, humdinger, I have been all the people you've been now. Nothing ever changes, keep the channels basic. Don't you call me lazy. Well, what are you gonna do now? The well has really run out, and you know I blame everybody else. Sling whatever you want, cause I'm already out. And you may not be around to talk about your health. Your bedrock is working the night shift. Your anger is walking beside it. Beware as the temperature rises. Yeah, people will be full of surprises. Yeah, people will be full of surprises. Yeah, people will be full of surprises. Yeah. Yeah, people will be full of surprises. Well, cities are becoming a blood sport. A rubber living's leaving us too raw. Well, now you never liked me, but I never liked you. So I dig some dirt on you, and you dig some dirt on me, and I find myself in your history. I dig some dirt on you. You dig some dirt on me, and I find myself in your history. Find myself in your history. Find myself in your history. Find myself in your history.
Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in. Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in. Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in. Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in. Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in. Accept that your life chances, your family's life chances should depend on which part of the country you grow up in.
On the floor of a room that I just can't afford, for a job that I just don't want, cause I was born with a fork, not a spoon, and things fall through. Life is too expensive. Oh, don't get defensive. What do you want? Blood? I made positive. Well, I made a run for it once. I just ended up back at square one, cause they could smell me from a mile away. And so I bowed out disgracefully. And now the only thing that keeps me going is the fact that if I can't own nothing, then nothing can own me. Nothing can own me. All I see is forgotten normal people. Yeah, we ain't all born equal. Well, the burning world is ass, and I'm on fire. I dance upon your deals. I dig my dirty heels. There's nothing in this world that isn't mine. I've tried every which way avenue, but I cannot and I will not pay my way in. Some things are best left unscripted. I will not quite exist over here in a corner of society that they hope disappears, that has more soul than their tiny minds could handle. Yeah, forgotten normal people are a force to remember, and what they haven't considered is how we hold everything together. Now they may have fucked with things beyond recognition, but you sit in that seat and you start the ignition, cause this is your drive, this is our car, it's our life, this is who we are, forgotten normal people. Yeah, we ain't all born equal. Well, the burning world is ass, and I'm on fire. I dance upon your deals. I dig my dirty heels. There's nothing in this world that isn't mine. Forgotten normal people. Yeah, we ain't all born equal. Well, the burning world is ass, and I'm on fire. Yeah, I dance upon your deals. I dig my dirty heels. Nothing in this world that isn't mine. Forgotten normal people. Forgotten normal people. White man in a fat white car, soft rage from old age, full wallet, thin hair, mostly gold, smoking his way out of town, stopping at the garage. Me, I'm working the day shift, where he bumps into Lisa. She was looking good in a tight black dress, standing by the crisps and the sandwich. Yes, he walked over. He was looking fat, mostly bold. Seriously, buying the most most expensive car you want. You're going bold. Gently, baby, you're a heavy load. Gently, baby, that white man on the road. Eyes on the prize, he asks, where you headed, to a party? I just put diesel in my unleaded. Oh no, that's really gonna wreck your car. Or what are you gonna do? She looked at him, he looked at her, and I looked at you. You're a damsel in that dress, Lisa, and neither of us are getting any younger. I'm an executive, and your game's hunger. Gently, baby, you're a heavy load. Gently, baby, that white man on the road. The next week, I'm working the night shift. A fat white man in a fat white car with a fat white wallet, red face, thin hair, mostly bold. He slid through the automated doors, and out from the fridge, Lisa appeared. This time, by the wines and beers. Well, fancy seeing you here. My battery died, and I thought it was best I come looking for some help inside. He bought a toffee crisp and a bottle of Sprite. Well, the passenger seat's yours. Gently, Billy, you're a heavy load. Gently, Billy, oh, that white man on the road, yeah. Ooh, yeah. There he goes, look at him go. That white man on the road, yeah. Ooh, yeah. At the center of the universe. That white man on the road, yeah. Ooh, yeah. He's everywhere I go. That white man on the road, yeah. Ooh, yeah. What time do I finish? Really? I'm gonna call in sick. See, I just can't do it. I got the phone in my hand. I got a script. I wrote a plan. Oh yeah. See, I've been up all night with one of the worst cases this town has ever seen. And if I come in, Debbie, I'm gonna take down the whole team. And then I'll have blood on my hands. Well, the machine won't operate at full speed. The Ichiana rule will unravel, and they won't cope at the pharmacy. We will be forced out on the streets, Debbie. Me and the whole of level 1 finance. We'll plague everyday folk, mothers at school gates in high heels and contamination pants. Ooh, but it won't stop there, Debbie, no. That fever will spread high, that fever will spread low. It could take down the better half of the city. And depending on which district you're living in, that could take you all down with me. I'm gonna call in sick. You know, it's for the greater good. I'm just thinking of you and your children's future. It's the only decent thing to do. But I tell you now, one day could probably become two. And perhaps if I take a flood, we should play it safe and round it up to 4. But in on a Friday? Out of interest, who is working on Friday? Is Andy in? Right, then I'm definitely dying because I don't know what it is about him, but that is some next level shit that I just cannot deal with. I'm gonna call in sick. You know, I've been feeling kinda nauseous as it is. This job is not what I wanted at all. I mean, any moment now, my doctor, you know, he's probably gonna call and okay, alright, it's no secret. I've never been keen, but I could poison the whole canteen. I should stay home for good measure. I can't risk it, Debbie, no. No, not in this kind of weather. Let it rain, let it pour. Thank you.
Has it changed the success you've had so far? Because obviously, you know, you've been working away at music for years, you know, and people suddenly think when you come out onto the scene, oh, you've just started making music. You know, is it kind of changed your idea of the industry or this idea of fame, do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I can see how much, especially with going through the pandemic and seeing the kind of collapse and quick restructure of so many things, it just is hard work for people as well. I think that's what's another element that I see, that these people, if they're no names or not, it's just how much hard work goes into stuff. And so I kind of have a bit more respect, I think, for people and the way that things work behind the scenes, because everybody has just had to adapt, and everybody actually kind of did adapt in the best way they could. And under the circumstances, so I just have a kind of a new respect, because famous or not famous, it's just really hard work.
Yeah, that's true. And just going back a bit, like where it all began, was it always music that you wanted to do growing up?
I mean, it was always music, but it was something that, I didn't study music or anything. My dad was the local teacher of music at the comp. Oh, wow. And so I never properly formally studied it. I kind of think he hoped that I would, but I didn't. But it was always something that I just did. I always had jobs and would find a band or people that were playing and just do stuff on a Friday night or whatever. Yeah. And it was just always that. And then I would always write secretly for myself and do nothing with it. I think that so many artists do this, don't they?
Loads of like piles of notes.
Yeah.
Going,
you know, I don't know what I'll do with it. And then, a couple of years ago, I was like, well, just do something with it. It actually doesn't matter what you do, just do something. And that's what Billy Nomates is, and was and is it's just, I've done something with the songs that I've written. So
well, your lyrics you're writing are really honest, and they feel really personal, and it feels that makes it more easily to relate to somehow. I read the idea that in a world of yes men, you wanted to be a no woman. I didn't mean to quote you back to yourself, but I really like that. It resonates with me, and it feels like things maybe took a sort of shift when you said that, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you are lucky enough to find people that you work with in music and you get on and you you have that shared sense of soul and spirit of what you want to do, I think that's amazing. And I just didn't find it, you know, but I constantly thought I had to. And so was always saying, oh yeah, I'll be in that band, and yeah, I'll do that, and I'll do that. And nothing really worked. And then the minute I was like, well, nah, okay, I'll just do it myself. I was like, well, no, come and do it. It's like, no, I'm just going to do it myself. And that was when it, yeah. And just saying no to other stuff as well. Sometimes you get opportunities in and go, come and do this thing, it's amazing. And you just, sometimes you can say, no, I don't want to do that thing.
Yeah, because we're kind of told the opposite, aren't we? Like the power of yes, saying yes to things, and like, actually the reverse is just as true, I think.
Yeah, and that, I think as well, for me, it was a whole time in my life where there was, there's people talk about like toxic positivity a lot.
Yeah.
And that kind of really filtered into it when, sometimes what you need to do is just go, no, I'm good.
No. Yeah. Do you think we've seen a lot of that during the pandemic? You mentioned toxic positivity, when you can say it. Yeah. It's a fine line, isn't it? Choosing what to and what not to sort of digest online as well.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's been a bit of a minefield thing last 6 months.
I think anyone because it's kind of the only bit of communication and contact we've had. So I think we've all overdone it. I mean, some people might not have, and kudos to them. But I think we've all overdone it. And yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because online is just, I can't remember who said it, but someone said it's things like Twitter, it's basically just like opening a window and shouting out of it. and then slowly getting the street's
Everyone
reactions.
Else in the street is also got the window, is also
shouting at it. And then you just have this street that's like mad.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember at the beginning there were some people that were dead positive and they're like, nope, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. And then depending on who you spoke to, some people were just like, this is the collapse of everything, this is awful.
Yeah.
And neither was good, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point where it just felt like everyone just started being honest.
Yeah.
That was the one, talking about levelers, it was the one time you could call someone out and go, well, first of all, you would call someone. Normally, like, if you got a text and they would call back, you'd be like, oh, there must be something wrong. I guess it did kind of open people up a little bit to a bit of honesty, do you think?
Yeah. But then, maybe. We don't know.
That's a can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was it like working with the Sleaford Mods guys?
Oh, great, yeah. I mean, I was massive fans of their work before I kind of got to know them anyway. It's just a privilege because they're just complete one-offs, aren't they?
Feels like a great meeting of minds.
It's nice, yeah. I really enjoyed it. They're nice people as well, and yeah, it was just dead cool. The fan in me was just like, oh, cool.
Do you think you'll do some more with those guys?
Who knows? I mean, it'd be up to them, really. I'll remain an open book, but yeah.
And do you have any kind of dream collaborations that you'd like to do?
No, not really. I think collaborations would kind of be one of the things that, like with Sleaford, if it just feels right, if something just comes along that feels, it'll probably be something completely surprising. I hope it's something completely surprising.
You never know, do you?
Yeah.
We are here for Independent Venue Week. How important are grassroots venues to you as an emerging artist?
Yeah, massively important. Basically, without them, I wouldn't have a tour next year, which is quite worrying. And I won't have a place to develop it. And that's really concerning. And it's concerning for the entire music industry because the new lot coming through, where do we go? Yeah. We're not going straight to the big venues, and where do we hone our craft? Yeah. Where do we work it out? So it's concerning, and they are incredibly important. And without them, they will be. There's the risk of there being a bit of a gap in what's happening now. I hope that so the government's not massively helping, is it, at the moment? No.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that cash injection, but I think the bottom line was always that they were trying to subtly say that not everyone will be saved. Yeah. But like you say, this is the level of performance and live acts and live venues that we absolutely have to save.
Yeah, and it's like with small theatres as well, it's across the events, it's like, well, if you want to build the next thing, then there has to be the grounds and space to do it, else they just don't exist. And that's the, it's the beauty of when stuff you know, when bands and artists come through that do kind of go on to do big things, that's why it's beautiful, because they start at this level and you just build and build and build. But it's also kind of, yeah, really worrying, because once those spaces are gone, we're not going straight to O2 arenas, and it would be wrong if we did.
Completely.
So, yeah.
Are there any venues that you have in your mind that you want to play?
Yeah, loads, really. I mean, it's hard.
Apart from O2 Arena.
Apart from O2 Arena, yeah. We're way off that. Yeah, I mean, it was the 100 Club was always somewhere I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So it was cool to go there, because it's just so...
All the photos of the bands
all
that
the
played there
photos,
before.
yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, just... I remember going to see... I went to see an artist that I liked called Fink at the Comedia in Bath. And I loved the stage and setup of that. And just to play across the country in the small venues is just always been a dream. Just there's just nothing specific about it. It was just to do that.
Yeah.
It's to just, yeah.
And are there any game-changing live gigs that have been really significant in your life that you've gone to?
Well, when seeing Sleaford Monsters the first time was a game changer, because their entire way they present music just blew my mind, because it shouldn't work, and it did, and I just fell in love with it, because I think any band or any artist that just does something that you go, wow, I haven't seen that, really. That really interests me, you know. But yeah, I saw John Spencer Blues Explosion. Oh. I saw him on his own, and he was,
really?
yeah, he was incredible on his own though. So just with his pedals and stuff. He was,
Where was that?
I was in Bristol at the tunnels in Bristol.
Right. Oh God,
so
I love
good.
him and the band. So good.
Yeah, it's really heavy, isn't it?
It's just so good. He really lives it. It's like there's no pretense. It's just like gets on stage.
Yeah.
Guitar in the air, bang, you know. So I kind of wanted to finish up a little bit. Has this current climate that we're going through, has it, not to overshadow the album you've got out now, which is available on Invader Records with Jeff Barrett's label, has this current climate inspired any new music, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing at the moment. There will be some new stuff out in the spring. And after this, I'm probably going to go away and write a lot more.
Okay.
I think I would be so surprised if there's any artist that comes out this year and doesn't go, I need to write, because a lot happened. I mean, I'm trying not to let it be too condensed into that, because there's other things as well that happen, and there's, the world turns, and it feels like a good time to write now. It's like everything's kind of, we're shutting down a bit. We've just had the craziest year I've ever known. It feels like we just kind of want to go under the duvets and just kind of write now. So, yeah.
And you will be touring, hopefully, fingers crossed, in 2021?
Fingers crossed, we'll be touring from May, and around the UK, and then depending on what happens with festivals, depending on what happens with Europe.
Yeah.
It's just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that as well.
The B word.
Yeah.
And just for the benefit of everybody watching, where can people find out more about you and pick up your music?
So people can go to iambillynomates.com. That's my site, and there'll be lists of what's happening with gigs and bits and pieces or new music. And links to vinyl and things and t-shirts that kind of keep, people fed. So
go get it, go buy it, get on it. Billy Nomates, thank you so much for joining us. It was amazing to see you play live.
Thanks
and
very much.
I'm looking forward to seeing you play live in the 2021.
Thank you.
That's all, folks. Thanks for joining us. You can keep up to date with all of the news and details of shows as they go on sale by signing up to our newsletter on the website, and follow us on all the social media channels that we mentioned earlier. See you all soon, hopefully down the front.